You know the feeling, right? You're cruising along on your PC, everything's fine, and then it just slows to a crawl. And what's the culprit? It's always the browser. Well, today, we're going to dive into a really powerful fix that costs nothing and tackles that lag head-on. And let me tell you, it has nothing to do with buying more RAM. Okay, let's get into it.
I just love this. It's such a dramatic way of looking at the whole Chrome eats RAM meme, right? It makes the browser sound like this insatiable monster, just gobbling up all our system's memory. But here's the thing. What if the story we've all been telling ourselves for years has the wrong villain?
Because, let's be real, it is not just Chrome anymore. So many of the apps we use every single day, Slack, Discord, Spotify, you name it, they're all built on the exact same architecture. It's called the electron domino effect. So you're not just running one browser, you're actually running like 5 or 6 clones of its engine, and they're all fighting each other for a piece of the action. So what's the typical solution? You know it. Just buy more RAM. We go from 8 gigs to 16, then 16 to 32, and yet somehow that sluggish feeling still manages to creep back in, which really makes you wonder, have we just been throwing money at the wrong problem this whole time?
Okay, this slide right here, this is where it all clicks. Think of your RAM as the size of your desk. It just determines how many things you can have out at once. But CPU latency, that's how fast you can actually work on those things. The lag you feel isn't because your desk is too small, it's because your workflow is getting constantly interrupted. We've been blaming the desk when the real problem is our PC's total lack of focus.
And this really drives the point home. Your computer is supposed to use your RAM. In fact, Windows goes out of its way to fill up any empty memory with cached files to make things feel snappier. So when you see that your RAM usage is high, that's not a bug, that's a feature. It means the system is working as intended. The real bottleneck is hiding in plain sight.
So, allow me to introduce the real villain of our story, the Windows scheduler. The best way to picture it is as a traffic cop at the busiest intersection of your CPU. It decides which program gets to go and which has to wait. And by default, it gives your massive browser with 100 tabs the exact same priority as some tiny background app. And that, right there, is where our entire problem and our solution lies.
You see, in the eyes of Windows, not all tasks are created equal. This table shows you the pecking order. Your browser is just stuck on normal, sitting in traffic with everybody else. What we want to do is bump it up to high, which is basically like giving it a police escort that lets it zoom past all the other cars. But listen to me here, and this is super important. Do not touch real time. That's like shutting down the entire city just for one car. It can and probably will freeze your entire city.
All right, so we've identified the problem and we know our target. The big question is, how do we actually tell that traffic cop, the Windows scheduler, to give our browser the VIP treatment every single time, automatically?
We are going to take direct control. We're going to do that by making a tiny, surgical change deep inside the Windows registry. You can think of it like we're adding a permanent new rule to the operating system's employee handbook, a rule that just says, whenever this browser is running, it's the most important thing. Period.
Okay, hold on. Before we go any further, I need you to listen. This is serious. The registry is like the central nervous system for Windows. One typo, one wrong click in there can cause major headaches. So please, I'm asking you, before you even think about opening it, create a system restore point. It takes less than 2 minutes, and it's a perfect undo button if anything goes wrong. It's your safety net.
All right, let's walk through this. First, you'll open up the registry editor. Just search for regedit. Then you're going to carefully navigate down that long list of folders to find image file execution options. Once you're there, you'll create a new folder or a key and name it after your browser, like chrome.exe. Then inside that new folder, you'll make another one called perf options. And finally, inside that one, you'll create a new value called CpuPriorityClass.
And here it is, the magic number, the key to this whole thing. You're going to set the value for CpuPriorityClass to 3. That's it. Just the number 3. See, in the secret language of Windows, 3 means high priority. With that one tiny change, you have permanently told your computer to roll out the red carpet for your browser every single time.
Now look, if the idea of performing brain surgery on your PC makes you a little nervous, you are not alone. And honestly, there are some great alternatives. There are tools out there, like WinPerf, that are designed to do all of this heavy lifting for you, and do it safely. They basically put all these tweaks behind a simple one-click button. All the power, none of the risk.
And this chart really breaks down the choice perfectly. Doing it manually is powerful, for sure, but it's permanent and unforgiving if you make a mistake.
A tool is like having a trusted mechanic do the tune-up for you. You can turn it on and off, it makes backups just in case, and you can reverse it with a single click. It's just the safer play.
And a lot of these tools throw in a nice little bonus. They can help reduce something called the DWM tax. The desktop window manager is the part of Windows that handles all the pretty visual effects, like transparent windows and slick animations. They look cool, but they use up resources. Turning them off frees up a little extra horsepower for your browser, giving you another small but definitely noticeable speed boost.
All right, so we've talked about all the good stuff, but it is absolutely crucial that we talk about the fine print now, because every power-up in life has a cost. Before you do this, you really need to understand the potential downsides so you can decide if this tweak is actually right for you.
So here's the deal. When you tell your PC to prioritize your browser above all else, it's going to steal resources from other things. If you're a gamer, aggressive anti-cheat software might see this as suspicious and cause problems. And since you're making your CPU sprint instead of jog, you should expect things to get hotter, for your fans to get louder, and if you're on a laptop, say goodbye to some of your battery life. You're trading efficiency for raw performance.
So, after all that, what's the big takeaway? It's that the sluggishness we blamed on RAM for a decade is really a crisis of attention inside your CPU. By taking control of the Windows scheduler, you can literally force your computer to focus, unlocking a much faster, much more responsive browser without spending a dime on new hardware.
And that kind of leaves us with one last big question. As the apps we use every day get bigger and more demanding, knowing how to do stuff like this becomes less of a fun trick and more of a basic need. It really makes you wonder, in a world of bloated software, who's really in control of your machine's priorities? The developer or you? Thanks for tuning in.